Thank you so much, Aritz, and welcome everybody. Thanks for joining us today. And for those of us watching for the very first time, I'd like to introduce myself to you. My name is Nkoyo Veronica Efrete. I'm also known as Nikki the HR Agony Aunt, and I'd love to share with you tips, advice, and industry secrets to help move your business or your career forward. I'll let you know why we're discussing this today. It was inspired by a problem that a client of mine had. And what had happened is that the average age in his office is 25, but this marketing manager was 41. Now, he was hired to be a mentor and make money, but instead, after 1 month, he resigned because the energy was too much. They weren't coming up to meet him, he was being dragged down to their level, and he just didn't have the energy for this. I'll let you know why. It's because there were different generations that were not recognized. I would like to talk about generations in the workplace because, as I've already said, we cannot all be the same age, and each age has an understanding or a different viewpoint of what work is. Now, a generation is simply a set of people born within a particular time period who share the same norms, values, traits, and opinions when it comes to work, more often than not. The first generation, or the youngest generation, is Generation Z, born between 2012 and 1990. They were born during a time of great conflict and war, terrorism attacks and all that. So they're used to some instability in the workplace. But at the same time, they're the entitled generation. I'm sure you've heard this, whereby in school that they were taught that if they finish school, they'll get a job. And alternatively, both parents held full-time jobs. And sometimes you find out that they were spoiled and let known that anything they wanted was in their grasp. So they are entitled and not always empowered. Now, after this, we have Generation Y, or the millennials, who were born between 1977 and 1990. They were born in a time that was pretty stable, even if they were rumbles of war. They've always known about gadgets and worked and lived with them, and they have expectations of being creative and challenged in the office. They could be entrepreneurs, but they work well with managers at the same time. This is all about Generation Y. Now, after this, we have Generation X. Generation X, for the most part, were born during the Civil War or experienced the Civil War. However, even though they were used to conflict, there was also a stable and well thought out civil service. It was Africa that worked for the most part, whether it was under or not colonial rule. So, as much as they challenge authority, they actually work well under it, and they may end up fighting their subordinates as opposed to fighting their managers. Now, finally, we need to talk about the baby boomers, born between 1946 and 1964. Yes, some people experienced the Civil War, but for the most part, it was an optimistic time and everything worked. I don't know if you've heard from your parents that finish school, you got yourself a car and a civil service job. They knew where they were going to. They have great expectations when it comes to respect, material wealth, and their well-being. And that is why in the office, they are more inclined to like you if you show great value for their work and respect, as opposed to solving problems for them. Now, we're talking about the generations in the office because we've said it before. A lot of people are working today in the same place, and they will not always be age mates. And this can lead to conflict. After all, even in our families, we fight. Understanding the generations will help you understand your workplace better and set rules and regulations that works for everyone. Now, in the next episode or in a future episode, I'm going to talk about bridging generational gaps. But for now, thank you very much for joining us. And as always, remember, your business or your career, it's in your hands. I know you have what it takes to make it a success. Goodbye.